And then he goes on to give us a verse which he says contains the essence of the teaching. This world appearance is a confusion, even as the blueness of the sky is an optical illusion. I think it's better not to let the mind dwell in it, but to ignore it. So the world appearance, how the world appears to us, is a confusion. Even as the blueness of the sky is an optical illusion. So is the blueness of the sky an optical illusion? What does he mean by that? An optical illusion is usually a trick of the senses, like a mirage. I mean, is the sky blue? Well, it's not blue at night time. And if you go into outer space, it's certainly not blue. And so I suppose it's only blue depending on certain conditions. So it's not really blue any more than a rainbow exists. Do rainbows exist? We say, well, of course, most of us have seen a rainbow. But if you are talking on your mobile phone to a friend, maybe on the other side of the valley where the rainbow is, your friend might not see it. Your friend might say there's no rainbow there. Because a rainbow depends on, amongst other things, on the angle of the viewer, the angle of perception of the viewer. So do rainbows exist? How real is a rainbow? How real is the colour of the sky? How real is the present, how the world seems to us? He says to ignore it, which possibly gives the wrong idea here. The thing is not to be taken in by it. We can't really ignore it, we've got to interact and get on with things, but we don't need to be taken in by it. So I think that's what he means by ignore it there. He says, if that's not quite clear to you now, read this scripture. The numerous ways in which this truth is revealed will help open your mind. He says the teaching is revolutionary. The biased mind does not readily accept it. And it's organised into daily readings, so that's nice and convenient. There's one other thing he mentions. An oft recurring expression in this scripture is Kakataliya, which I think means coincidence. And he gives an example. A crow alights on the coconut palm tree, and that very moment a ripe coconut falls. The two unrelated events thus seem to be related in time and space, though there is no causal relationship. Such is life, such is creation in inverted commas. But the mind, caught up in its own trap of logic, questions why, invents a why and a wherefore to satisfy itself, conveniently ignoring the inconvenient questions that still haunt an intelligent mind. Yoga Vasistha, that's this book, demands direct observation of the mind, its motion, its notions, its reasoning, the assumed cause and the projected result, and even the observed and the observation. Or what he means that you have to look at the whole process of observing and what's being observed. So, with that introduction, we will move on to the first page of the Yoga Vasistha. Before I launch into the first part of the Yoga Vasistha, there's one thing I wanted to mention from last time. And that was to do with the blueness of the sky being an optical illusion. It seems to me that this is analogous with what was popular a few years ago, were so-called magic eye pictures. They were computer-generated stereograms. They seemed like abstract images. I'll put this one up to the camera. You might want to pause this one and have a look at it. But if you gaze at it, it seems like an abstract image, but if you gaze at it in a certain way, it will almost magically appear as a three-dimensional diorama. In this case it's a velociraptor, prehistoric creature, and some people have trouble seeing it, and some people see it very easily. It just requires a slight shift in the gaze in how you're looking at it, and then what happens is this actually quite luminous three-dimensional image comes into view. So, what is it? Is it a three-dimensional image, or is it an abstract image? The mind is actually creating both images. Which one is the correct one? Well, rather than answer that, I just want to say, well, this is a bit like how we see reality. Reality is not a fixed thing, it's an interpretation, and what we need to look at, what we need to be able to see, is that process of interpreting reality that's going on within us from moment to moment.